It's reported in the Financial Review today that construction of the wireless section is so far behind schedule that less than half the planned premises will actually get it by June 30. And one of the problems is big, tall trees.
Yeah.
Didn't anybody think that there were actually trees out there?
No, the way the wireless network works is not like a mobile phone network.
Uh-huh.
A fixed wireless network requires what they call line of sight.
Yes.
So you build a tower
Yes.
and you have an antenna on your house.
Yes.
Now, when we pick where we're going to build towers,
Yes.
we don't go around each individual house at the time. We say, here's the best geographic spot, it's the tallest, and then ultimately, if there's a tree that is in the way, as funny, and I know you're laughing about Ella.
Well, it is funny because they haven't just grown big in the past 6 months.
No, but we don't go around each individual home before we pick the site. So we've got two choices. You can have a fixed wireless network, or you can be, if you can't get the fixed wireless, you go to satellite. So it's not that anybody misses out.
No, but the point is it's running late. It's running late because of these bloody trees.
Oh, it's not
which
just
have
the
always
trees.
been there.
No, as you know, and there's been appeals. You've got to follow the proper processes. You can't just build a tower anywhere you want.
Yeah, but nothing's changed. You must have had extraordinarily optimistic predictions because the trees have always been there, so is the objection process.
The objection process depends whether or not people object. If no one objects, the tower gets built.
Yeah, well, did you schedule it on the basis nobody was going to object?
Well, we've had a range of objections up in Ballarat area particularly. Now, we've gone through legal processes across the country, and in most cases where there has been an objection, we've been slowly winning those, or we lose some. So the process of rolling out towers, whether it's a mobile phone tower or a NBN tower for the fixed wireless network, you've got to follow the proper process.
So how far behind are you?
Well, the report is based on information from Senate estimates last week, and I was sitting next to Mike Quigley last Thursday night, and what he said was, we don't know yet because we're in the process of establishing the towers. There'll be a big lump this month.
So we're well behind, but we don't know how far behind.
Well, we'll find out at the end of the month when we know how many towers are up, and then we've been able to test whether or not the signals reach the houses.
Is this good management? I mean, there's a schedule, there's a business plan, it's going to work during this time. We allow for big trees, we allow for objections. No, didn't work, we don't know when. We don't know how many, we don't know how late.
We've probably had more objections than was anticipated, and you can't predict.
So it is bad management.
No, that's not fair, Neil. Some communities have welcomed the towers, some have opposed them, some we've gone on to appeal. And as you know, for anyone who's been involved in the planning process...
But that was always going to happen.
Anyone involved in the planning process will tell you that it can take longer if there's more appeals, and we're appealing some of the decisions.
It was always going to happen.
There's always going to be objections, absolutely.
And there's always going to be trees.
No, trees is a particular problem for fixed wireless.
Yes, but they were always there. Oh, God, help me. Okay, the more serious matter really is the asbestos. The union is threatening, the Communications, Electricity, Plumbing Union is threatening not to work on the NBN rollout because of the asbestos. Now, that'll just stop it indefinitely, won't it?
Well, firstly, they haven't called for an absolute stop of all work. That's the first thing. They've said, particularly Telstra and the remediation, some aspects of what NBN are doing with what we call augmentation, which is working with some of those pits. So that's what they're talking about. They haven't called for the NBN to be stopped. So there's still NBN work going on all across Australia. We're still on target to meet those revised targets at 30th of June. And I look forward to coming on your show, and you can have a laugh when I say we've hit the... Melbourne
Footy Club has revised its outlook for a premiership too.
That's just cruel. That is not a fair or that's just cruel, Neil.
All right. Revised targets. But what effect will the problem with asbestos and the threatened industrial action by the union? What effect will it have on the rollout?
In the short term, we're not anticipating, because the Telstra remediation and the pit remediation particularly is about 6 months ahead of schedule, ahead of when we actually come into people's streets to put boxes on their houses. So over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we don't believe there'll be any significant impact. Having said that, if it was to stop indefinitely, of course that would have an impact. But Telstra are working with the union as we speak. NBN Co, I know, have organised to meet with the union as soon as possible to work their way through these issues. Okay. So if it was to stop for 3 months, absolutely that would be an impact. I mean, just on the weekend, NBN Co stopped work in a couple of states, nothing to do with asbestos. We had a tragedy in Kama where a worker was killed, our first. an absolute tragedy for the family.
Yes.
So there was a couple of days where they paused just to do the normal things that you do in circumstances like that. So a couple of days doesn't have any impact. 3 months, of course, that would have an impact, but that's not what the union are actually calling for, and that's not what they're suggesting. So we had a meeting, as you know. Bill Shorten convened a meeting on Monday. There was a lot of agreement.
But this